And good afternoon. Welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590. This is Darren Todd, and we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, a licensed social worker. She's been in the area doing some things in the past, Division of Family Services. Is that correct?
That's right, social services.
And obviously, she's now moved on to a new career, and we're going to talk a little bit about Kelsey McElwrath and her counseling and Affinity Counseling that's located at 103 South Main here in Kennett. Kelsey, first of all, welcome to the booth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And if you could, tell the listeners a little bit about Kelsey McElwrath.
So I've been in the area my whole life. So everyone probably knows me but doesn't know that they know me. So like I started out at ARI, American Railcar Industries, when that was still here before Greenbrier took over. So I've been there. Like you said, I've been at social services. Started right out of college there. And that's really where I sort of got my start, I guess you could say. Sort of an eye-opening experience. I hate to say that I almost lived under a rock up until that point, but I was almost living under a rock. I didn't really know what social work was. Didn't really know what children's division was, really. And kind of got going doing that, and it was sort of an eye-opening experience to the things that go on just here in our county, and it really sort of put into perspective the need that we have around here for mental health services. So I was there for a few years, and I thought, well, okay, to move up, I'm going to need to go back and get my master's, and that's exactly what I did. I went back to college again, got my master's, finished that, stayed an additional year or so, applied for a few different positions. But the tricky part with that is, like, you interview for these roles, but everyone else in the state also interviews for the roles, so you're kind of competing against everyone in Missouri at that point. So after I went to a few interviews, didn't get them, so I thought, well, maybe I need to adjust my sales, kind of look at maybe a different way to make an impact on the community. So I started looking into getting my license as a social worker and kind of going that route. And that's what I did. I took my licensing exam, passed, first shot, thankfully, and then started working on my clinical supervision. And what that does, that allows me to take a wider range of clients, I guess I should say. So I'll be able to expand a little bit more once I get that completed.
And we're here on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Kelsey McElwrath. And Kelsey's been telling us a little bit about how she's wound up where she is now. A lot of people want to ask me, Kelsey, how did you wind up going from ARI to the Division of Family Services?
So I started out at ARI, I don't know, I think I might have been like 19 at the time. And I had went to college for a little bit right out of high school, and I thought, no, it's not really for me. I'm going to try something else. Well, it takes a special kind of person to be fitted for factory life, and I learned pretty fast that wasn't really for me. So I went back to school while still working at ARI, which I don't recommend doing full-time of both because it was very challenging at times. So,
and let me cut you off and get this straight. So is it my understanding that you were working at AR in the factory? You were like actually building rail cars? Is that correct?
No, they wouldn't let me go with some of those power tools and the machines in there. So what I was doing the production scheduling. So a lot of numbers, like I said, a lot of scheduling, tiny parts that goes into building those rail cars. Had to be very organized, which I'm a pretty organized person anyway, but it still wasn't really, I guess, what you might say my calling, I felt like was.
And that eventually led you to go back to school to get a degree in what?
My bachelor's degree is in criminal justice. So with that, I thought I want to be a police officer, probation, parole, something to that effect. So like my whole career here has been a journey, I guess I should say, of going down a path and then having to readjust and kind of just seeing where life takes me.
And at some point, you wound up at the Division of Family Services. How did you wind up at the Division of Family Services?
So, believe it or not, when you finish college as a 20 whatever old I was at the time, and a lot of places aren't looking to hire someone that doesn't have a whole lot of experience in those kind of roles. Like I said, I worked at the factory, but that wasn't really the kind of experience that a lot of places that I was applying to were looking for. So I had a few friends that applied for Children's Division, and they kind of told me about it, and I thought, well, we'll see what happens. So I interviewed, got it, and like I said, that was a whole new world, a whole new experience that I wasn't accustomed to at all. So it was a very, again, eye-opening journey.
And again, we're here on the Welcome to the Booth on KDX AM 1590 with Kelsey McElwrath. Talk a little bit about her. She's working for Affinity Counseling here in Kennett, located at 103 South Main. We're going to eventually get around to her counseling and things of that nature, but we're kind of delving into the way she wound up getting that far into the counseling. So at some point when you're working for the Division of Family Services, what did you first do for the division?
So I started out in alternative care. So basically what that is, when a hotline comes in, our investigators go out, they do the removal with the juvenile office, the child comes into foster care, and they're assigned a caseworker. So as a caseworker, basically we work with the family to try to reunify, or if that's just not an option at all, we work to try to find permanency in another form, and that's it could be APLA, which is another planned permanency living. If the child's old enough, really at the 17 mark, that's kind of when we start looking at that, or guardianship or adoption. So we have several different options, but like I said, reunification is always the first thing we try, and that's working really close with the family, making sure that we're kind of adjusting and addressing those things that kind of led to the removal in the first place.
And how long were you in that position for the division?
I believe it was about 4 years.
And after that, did you do anything else while you were there?
I did. The last couple of years I was there, I was in foster parent licensure, and what that is, it's basically to become a foster parent in the state of Missouri. You've got certain criteria you've got to meet and have to be approved and recognized by the division as a appropriate placement to keep these foster kids. And so what I would go in and do is evaluate the home, make sure that they have everything they need, and we had a whole list of things like fire extinguishers, things like that. Make sure that the foster parents are doing their continuing education training to be up to date on like the latest policy and procedure as far as foster parents are concerned. And that was my role really as the licensing worker, in addition to doing the subsidies for them if guardianship or adoption were to occur.
And one thing that I know in dealing with you, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, and we're on KDX AM 1590, and welcome to the booth with Darren Todd. In talking about your role in licensing foster families and foster parents, was there a great need and a huge shortage of foster parents in this area?
Absolutely. So in our area of the state, there's a great need for licensed foster parents and kinship placements, which are the same but different, I guess. I hate to put it that way, but so kinship placements are a little bit different than foster homes. They still have to follow the certain guidelines and procedures, but we depend a lot in the area on kinship placements because there's not a whole lot of people that are willing to take in foster kids in their home.
And when you talk about kinship placements, you're talking about family members or relatives who are willing to take in these children. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Family, friends, they could be closely related. Like I said, they don't necessarily have to be blood, but yeah. Basically, it's that family connection there. And
in the event that there's not a kinship placement available of something of that nature, there will be foster parents, or there's also the Delta Children's Home here in Dunklin County. Is that correct? And I think there's also a home in Stoddard County. Is that correct?
It is. Like you said, we always try to do kinship placements first, just to keep the child in a familiar placement. But if not available, we look at foster homes, or like you said, the Delta Children's Home here in Dunklin. So we start small and then kind of grow our circle outward as options are kind of limited. But really the first preference there is with family or friends.
And your role there is you were in charge of licensing those, both the children's home here in Dunklin County and Stoddard County. Is that correct?
Just here in Dunklin.
Dunklin County. Mm-hmm. And then also you assisted in recruiting foster parents. Is that correct?
That is correct. We did. We tried to hit it hard because, again, in our area of the state, we don't have a lot of resources here. So really our biggest need was foster homes, kinship placements. We really had kind of a disparity there from like the number of removals that were happening with our options to place kids. So our biggest asset there, again, is people that are willing to take these kids into their home.
And we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling. We're talking a little about our career at Division of Family Services and the Children's Division. This is Welcome to the Booth on KDX AM 1590 with Darren Todd. And talking a little bit about these foster parents and these kinship placements, was there some kind of monetary subsidy or something that they were awarded or given to help with these children if they did agree to let them into their home?
As long as they followed like the state guidelines there, they should get a maintenance payment every month, and the amount kind of depends on the age of the child. I think, and I don't remember exactly what the amount is, but usually like infants would get a little bit more because, as you know, children that size go through clothes and things like that quite quickly. So it changes, again, based on the child, but payments were awarded for things like that to help offset the cost of taking these kids into their home.
And when we talk a little bit about trying to put some kind of permanency with the children, obviously, you indicated that there was the first step was try to return the children to the parents. Is that correct?
It is.
And in the event that didn't happen, there was also some things that could happen, perhaps even a guardianship or some kind of adoption. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, the state would help those individuals acquire attorneys or do the legal work to help them get those kids through the guardianship or adoption. Is that correct?
It is. We followed a timeline, and again, as long as the criteria was met, like the state would step in and offer subsidies to help pay for attorneys and maintenance payments. If the child had some sort of disability or something like that, an additional amount would be offered again to sort of help these foster homes with long-term care of the kids.
And when you're recruiting for these foster parents, and again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, located here in Kennett on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Darren Todd. And when we were talking a little bit about how would you recruit those individuals, what would you do to try to convince people to open up their home and be a foster parent?
We did a lot of things. So we tried a lot of creative solutions. So if you remember, back a couple of years ago, we had a float in the Delta Fair Parade. That was the first year that we had done that. When we were sort of looking at different ways that maybe we haven't tried before. So that was one. We had talked about billboards. Really, so every year we would also have a foster parent banquet to show appreciation. And our biggest attribute to getting new foster homes was using the foster parents that we already had. So like word of mouth was huge because they would advocate for the need, but they would also be able to give like firsthand experience of what it's like being a foster parent, and you're not like having to read off something that somebody 100 miles away made in an office. So that personal one-on-one connection with others is what we really depended on a lot.
And we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling. And Kelsey, when you're not doing your work there for Affinity, what are some things? Tell us a little bit about your personal life. What's going on with Kelsey McElwrath?
I'm into a little bit of everything. So if you know me, you know I'll try anything once. So like I'm into gardening and I'm big into antiquing right now. that's as of late. You know, a few years ago, I got into powerlifting a lot, and actually competed with that once. So really, there's not anything that I wouldn't try, I guess. So again, along with my career journey, personal interest journey, I guess, has also happened along the way. So I've learned a lot about myself, and the therapies really help with that too. Like when you do therapy with someone, it's also very therapeutic as a therapist to kind of reevaluate your thoughts and things and how you view outcomes and everyone's journey.
And we were talking a little bit about your role there for the Children's Division and the Division of Family Services. And at some point you decided, you know what, I want to kind of shift gears. And you said you went back to school. Is that correct?
It is. So both times that I went through college, I did so full time. The first time I was very, very pregnant and graduated with my son there at my college graduation. And then the second time when I went through grad school, I was also very, very pregnant with my daughter. Again, college takes a big commitment, and I don't know that I was smart about it, doing it full-time, pregnant, going through college. So it was a heavy load to carry, but I'm glad that I went ahead and did it.
And would you say that it's somewhat of an addictive personality? Once you put your mind to something, you're wanting to get it done and get it done as quickly as possible?
Yeah, for sure. And that's another part of like when you do therapy, like you're at least I am constantly like diagnosing myself with different things. And I think, again, I've learned a lot about my personality along the way. And that's definitely something that I've noticed as a pattern in my life, that when I find something that I think I want to do, I have to do it right then. So it's a pattern for sure.
And at some point you graduated with a master's in
social work.
And you segue that into becoming affiliated with Affinity Counseling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Affinity Counseling.
So I always tell people, like, the coolest thing that I think about Affinity is, like, yes, you work there, but they have so much combined experience that they allow you sort of free reign to find out what's your jam, I guess, in therapy, because there's so many different modalities, so many different things you can offer. And they really sort of give you, the steering wheel there to sort of drive and find out what works best for you and what kind of therapy you like to do with everybody.
And if we were wanting to get a hold of Affinity Counseling and set up some kind of services, how do we do that?
We have a website. It's Counseling with Affinity. You can go on the website. It shows the different rooms, I think, which I think they're actually in the middle of updating that right now. So there's new pictures and things like that coming. There's an option you can go through and look at all the therapists that are there, kind of read a bio about each one, kind of see what works best with, what you're looking to achieve. And on that same website, there's the referral. So you can fill the referral out and put, what therapist that you would prefer, if you prefer one. If not, some people leave it blank and we just sort of divvy up with whoever we think would work best. And
I know in this region, and we're here again with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590. In this area, there is a large need for mental health counseling and mental health services in general. What led you to decide or to figure out that counseling was the area, or as you said, your jam is what you're looking to do right now? So
at Children's Division, of course, Children's Division works with abused and neglected kids. So really kind of seeing that in the community kind of got me thinking, like, maybe like individual, like one-on-one work would be the best way for me to utilize the skills that I have, all the education that I have, to really make an impact more on a one-on-one basis that I wasn't necessarily getting to do with the division. So that's sort of what got me into like licensure, of getting my license as a social worker, and kind of going about it that way.
And tell me what modality or particular interest that you're into right now, as far as what you enjoy doing for Affinity Counseling.
So right now, I've been through the art therapy training. So I use a lot of that in daily practice. And it's not necessarily just with kids. I know a lot of people, when they think of art therapy, they think of kids coloring pictures and things like that. And while we do that some, it's very person-centered. So Even like with the adults that I see, sometimes we'll do like art therapy techniques because it's really a way to access any hard feelings or any maybe trauma, and maybe people don't have the words to necessarily articulate those feelings. So it's able to come out a little bit better in art form. And that's really kind of what gets us going to address any of the underlying trauma that someone may have.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling. And you're in need of any counseling services, you can get on their website. It's Affinity Counseling. What was it, Kelsey?
AffinityCounseling.com.
.com?
It's on the Facebook page too.
There's also a Facebook page?
Yes.
So you can also look on the Affinity Counseling Facebook page. Reach out to them and they can direct you in the right path or right modality or right counselor for your needs. So in talking a little bit about some of the other stuff, other than the art therapy, what else are you looking into?
So we, as social workers and counselors, things like that, we have what's called continuing education, and every year we have to have so many hours of that continuing education. And I'm always looking for different things that may work well together. So right now, I'm kind of looking at taking some sex therapy courses, which balances off the art therapy that I'm currently kind of working with. And they actually work really well together because they both create a safe, non-judgmental space to explore deep personal topics that someone may have. And art therapy kind of allows people to express their thoughts and feelings, which might be hard to put in words. And it's especially helpful when you talk about like intimacy, body image, sexual identity, or even sexual trauma, which is what we saw a lot, when I was at Children's Division. So kind of using that creative expression, clients are able to bypass some of the fear and shame that come with these conversations. And when trauma happens, like memories can be fragmented, and really that nonverbal expression can help the client kind of safely process those feelings in a safe place.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, talking a little bit about some of her modalities and things that she's looking into doing. If you're interested, you can reach out on the Facebook page, Affinity Counseling, and also affinitycounseling.com. Reach out, fill out a questionnaire, let them know that you're interested in or need of their services, and they will obviously get you in the right direction. And not to be, kind of off the page or off the script, but you indicated that you have a couple children. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about Kelsey McElwrath, the private side.
So anybody that lives in our house, and that's mostly my son or my husband. So like, I like to do the learning. So I'm a very good student, and I'm constantly trying to look at new things that I might like to implement, like with practice or any other area. So like, oftentimes I'll experiment like with people in my house, and I'll ask questions. And so I know they're tired of me trying to learn all this new stuff, because my son told me earlier that he's not one of my clients to practice on, is how he worded it. So like, I know Kelsey, the professional, oftentimes bleeds over to Kelsey, the personal, the mom, the wife, the X, Y, and Z, whatever else I'm into at the moment. So,
and you mentioned something a little bit earlier, and I think we need to touch on it. You said at some point you were into powerlifting?
Yeah. So fun fact, you can Google me and see my numbers from an Arkansas powerlifting competition that I did in 2022, I think. Again, that's that very addictive personality. Like once I kind of make my mind up to do something, like I've got to follow through with it. So there's a lot of fun pictures, I think on Google of the powerlifting, and that was an experience really. Like, so I've never been an athletic person. I know that may be hard to believe, knowing that I can't hardly talk and walk at the same time. So really the powerlifting was my first experience at a sport, I guess. So again, eye-opening experience, something I probably would have never gotten into, but somehow I find my way to to do those things.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, talking on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Darren Todd. And we're talking a little bit about our powerlifting career. And obviously in Kennett, Missouri, where would you go to train if you were into powerlifting?
So shout out to Josh and Eileen Garris. They have Barbell Syndicate, which is here in Kennett. It's right next to Casey's on that main strip there. It's a powerlifting gym. That's where we did all of our training, that sort of thing. It's really not like your typical gym that you think of. I know a lot of people, when they think we're going to the gym, we're doing treadmills, things like that. But no, their gym really focuses on the powerlifting dynamic, and really a lot of people go and train really hard in there. But it's like a family in there. Everyone knows everybody really when you're in there, and it's a close knit group. And
for those who remember, Josh was a long time juvenile officer here in Dunklin County. Is that correct?
It is, and that was what was so great about working at Children's Division. Like, you being in the community, you learn a little bit about everybody and a little bit of who everyone is, and so. When I was kind of looking at what I wanted to get into, I know I wanted to focus in the community. That's where I'm comfortable. That's where I know a lot of people. I know kind of what the need is here, and really just having that sense of familiarity with Kennett and Dunklin County in general.
And where are you from originally?
Here in Kennett.
And did you go to school here?
I think I did until like 6th grade, and then we went to Holcomb. So I've split a little bit of both.
So you've done a little bit of both in Kennett and Holcomb. And in talking here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, we're talking a little bit about the services they offer. A lot of people, in this area are concerned about the fact that they don't have funds or the ability to pay for counseling services. Does Affinity have some way to help those, assist people who need help in trying to pay for these counseling services?
They do, and I'm not as familiar with the sliding scale that they use, but I know like there's different options. And then, so like right now, as I'm going through clinical licensure, right now I can only take Medicaid clients. Once I become an LC, then I'm able to take private insurance. So we have Medicaid, private insurance, like I said, the sliding scale, which I'm not as familiar with, and we have clients, I think, that do like self-pay. So there's different options.
And right now, are you receiving referrals from anyone in particular, or is there anybody that, if, for instance, if I had a concern or a situation and I needed help with a certain thing, is there any agencies that you've really noticed have been reached out, help with these and direct them in your direction?
Coming from Children's Division, I'm still very close with a lot of the workers out there. So we keep in pretty close contact. So I've gotten referrals from them, the juvenile office. I think those are the two that I've noticed as much more than any others. But I know like the office staff at Affinity, they're always reaching out to different community groups, throwing out that we're looking to take clients. And would be happy to have them.
And we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, located at 103 South Main in Kennett. Welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590 with Darren Todd. And if you can, tell us a little bit about the history of Affinity Counseling. Who's behind Affinity Counseling, if you can tell us?
So it's Matt and Andrea Yunt. They're from Piggott. There is there's an office there in Piggott. They have an office in Corning. Kennett is the newest location. I think, we're always looking to expand, that sort of thing. Telehealth is always an option too. That's kind of become pretty big, since COVID happened. A lot of people that don't really have the means to get to appointments, that sort of thing, utilize telehealth.
And kind of explain to some of the listeners who don't really know, what exactly do you mean by telehealth?
So when they go online, fill out the referral, become a client, we have the option. They use this system to where we can set up appointments virtually. So it sends a reminder, I think, a week before the appointment, then like the day before the appointment, and then I think a few minutes before the appointment to remind people that, they have an upcoming appointment. And when those telehealth sessions are scheduled, they come with a link. So they get the reminder, hey, you have an appointment in 5 minutes or whatever, and they're able to click the link, and it automatically connects to their therapist who's prepared for the session, and they have the session that way.
And in regard to the counseling here and the mental health treatment in all of the area, do you work with other counseling services or other facilities to kind of like broaden your reach in an event that perhaps we don't have something that exactly for you, but we know somebody else who can help you?
I think that's what's so great about like working in mental health. Like if we're not able to provide the need for a client, like we're always working for the best need of the client. So if we see a need for this client to receive this service, like it's really us working for the best need of that client's mental health, even if that's reaching out to somewhere else that may be better suited for that person.
And it almost sounds like mental health is more of a collegial situation. Obviously my first career is an attorney, and everybody's battling for every case, every dollar, things of that nature. Sounds almost like you're saying in your situation, hey, we're all in this together. We just want the patient to become better and put themselves in the best mental frame of mind that we can, no matter who does it or where we need to send them. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I've used the analogy there to when I talk to clients, like finding a therapist is kind of like dating, in a way, and not like you have to find them attractive sort of way, but like you have to find someone that fits your needs, you're comfortable with, someone that you think is going to be able to handle your needs the best. So it's not completely unheard of if you start seeing a client and they're like, it's not really what I want. We're always happy to do some trading around to try to get what works best for that client and their mental health needs.
And we're here with Kelsey McElwrath, Affinity Counseling, on Welcome to the Booth, KDX AM 1590. And not to try to pry, and certainly if I'm going down some kind of direction you don't want to lead me, or me lead you, then that's fine. Is there something in your past that led you to want to become a counselor?
I think when I started again at Children's Division, like I had no sort of idea of like what Children's Division did, like what social work was, and I think that kind of having my eyes open to that experience was just, I was kind of in awe. Like I've lived this long and I've not been exposed to any of this, so it's been kind of a learning opportunity. And again, like I'm a very good student. I like to learn new things and kind of learning different modalities of therapy and like how that plays into a person's thoughts and behaviors. Like it's interesting on a level that I've not really come across before. So it's always kind of a challenge to try to fit the pieces together so that the client is able to have all the tools that they need to better to handle their situation, whatever that may be.
And I've always felt that it's very beneficial, and I've used this term in the past on some shows, to basically unpack your baggage that you have. Do you find that a majority of the individuals in this area would benefit for them to talk to someone just about, in general, about mental health issues, things that's happened to them in the past, things that they need to get off their chest? Do you think that that's a real need in this area?
Absolutely. Like when people think of mental health, like it's got a stigma attached to it that it's getting better. When you mention mental health, it's not like what it was 50 years ago. And really trying to normalize therapy and mental health and telling people, it's not you go to therapy because something's wrong necessarily, but you can view it as like preventative care because everyone needs a neutral party to talk to, really, because like you have your friends, you have your family, but really having someone that specializes in like human behavior, thought patterns, things like that can be extremely helpful, not only to like address any trauma that's happened, but sort of address any like change of life experiences that the person may be going through. So I personally think it's beneficial for everybody to see a therapist. Even therapists will see therapists sometimes. So.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath with Affinity Counseling on KDX AM 1590. Darren Todd, welcome to the booth. And we've been talking a little bit about Kelsey, and she started out at ARI, then she went to the Children's Division of Family Services, and now she's at Affinity Counseling. How long have you been with Affinity?
I've been with Affinity since, March of this year.
And I know that it's still early. Where do you see your counseling career, or where do you see Affinity and you going towards in the future?
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm working on my clinical supervision. So I think I've got about a year left of that. And that's when I'll start being able to take a little bit more wider range of clients. I think that no matter what I get into, like doing therapy, I think will always be sort of a special place, kind of in my journey somewhere, whether it's full-time, part-time. It'll be something that I'll enjoy doing. I enjoy the work that I do today. So I'd like to keep that piece with me, I think.
And you've thrown out a couple words a couple times, and I think if you could expand on it a little bit. You said your clinical supervision is what you're working on. Explain to the listeners what exactly does that mean? So
when you graduate grad school as an MSW, Master of Social Work, you can pursue licensure. And to get your initial preliminary license there, you take an exam, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty hard. I studied for months and months for it. Passed, so then I became an LMSW, a Licensed Master of Social Work. And from there, if you want to take it further, which I do, again, that's sort of that self-study, always pushing myself, you can do clinical supervision. For that, you have to have 3,000 supervision hours of direct work experience, and then I think like 96 one-to-one individual hours. So once a week, I meet with my clinical supervisor. We talk about any issues that I'm having with any cases. He offers suggestions. We kind of talk about different techniques or any modalities that I'm looking at to pursue. Because, again, they kind of let you be in charge of the type of therapy that you want to do, which is super helpful. So that's kind of what the clinical supervision looks like.
And in talking a little bit about the clinical supervision, you indicated that you meet with your supervisor weekly. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who is your supervisor?
It's the owner, Matthew Yunt.
And is this a session in which you're just talking generally about what's going on in your week, how you've done things, and where you're at as far as your counseling?
We can talk about a variety of things. It's usually centered around like if I've got a particularly challenging client, kind of let him know what's going on. He offers suggestions, things like that. Really just offering that support of as a new therapist. Like when I ask questions, he'll turn around and ask me, well, what I think I should do. So it really, he kind of puts the ball back in my court to work out kind of the thought process there. And it's more of a leading type supervision, I would say, to where, you really kind of got to look back and reflect on yourself and think what you think is best as a therapist.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, located at 103 South Main in Kennett. Welcome to the booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And a lot of people, Kelsey, would say, I don't have time to do counseling. I work full time. I work, 8 to 5, or I work second shift or third shift. Does Affinity kind of work around individual schedules and things of that nature?
They do. So another fabulous thing that I love about Affinity, you are in charge of your own schedule. So right now I see clients all day, Monday and Tuesday. Some clients see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If there's ever a situation to like where I have a client that I want to see on Saturday, like through telehealth or whatever, that's always an option. So you're as a therapist at Affinity kind of in charge of your client list and what you're comfortable doing and who you're comfortable seeing. It's not a forced thing where you take where a client comes in and they say you have to have this client and this is how you have to work things and this is when you have to see them, which is great because I think when you have that flexibility and you really love your job, like you're able to provide so much better care to your client than you would if someone told you, hey, you have to see them this way, that way, at this time. So again, that flexibility is huge.
And in addressing that, I mean, obviously we talked about telehealth, so there could always be them calling in on the phone or the FaceTime or video chat. Is that correct?
It is.
Also, does it always require them to go to a location, or is there like neutral sites or other locations that you can meet with if you're in a counseling situation?
So some of our therapists, I think will go to different locations to see clients. As far as the telehealth goes, most of them do them in their house. Like they don't need anything special, just a phone and internet connection, which I think most people have now. But some people just prefer to come into the office, which is fine. And again, it's sort of going back to that finding a therapist that fits your needs as a client.
And then we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, and we're talking a little bit about the services of Affinity Counseling. I want to go back to the Children's Vision point one more time, and that was the licensure there at the end. We talked about the foster parents. If someone decided they wanted to be a foster parent or were looking for that particular role, how will they go about contacting someone, or who would be the person that they'd reach out to?
So I think the licensure part is carried by a worker in Stoddard County now. But the good news is that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to Stoddard County to make that happen. They could call up to the Dunklin County office or go up there, and somebody would be more than happy to talk to them. Amanda Patrick, she's the alternative care supervisor there. Very experienced in it. She's done licensure herself, so she would have a lot of knowledge on who to talk to and how to go about getting that started.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling. Talk a little bit about the services of Affinity Counseling. Kelsey, in your powerlifting days, and again, we're going to talk about that because I think that's fascinating. You indicated that you could Google your results on a certain Arkansas match. Is that correct?
You can, yep.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about what we would find if we were to Google that?
So I did the powerlifting, right? But like I'm still not as knowledgeable about the technical side, I guess, of how they go about scoring. So like when you do a powerlifting competition, and I've only done one, but you get scored on your technical execution, I guess, of the lift, in addition to like how much weight you can put up.
Well, I like the word how much weight you can put up.
Yeah. Yeah, so
the lingo.
So if no one has ever seen me before, just know that I'm 5'3", about 135 pounds. So I don't think that I necessarily fit the ideal power lifter image, but you'd be surprised. Well,
and again, you're an excellent counselor because you're avoiding the question. What was your what would we find? What did you do, a bench press?
So the competition that I did, it was bench press, squat, and deadlift. It was 3 lifts. And it's like pulling teeth here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling. Mm-hmm. We're going to get this out. Let's talk a little bit about this powerlifting. What was your bench press? Oh, it's been some years ago. You'd have to Google it.
Okay,
You'd have to Google it.
You don't remember your powerlifting weights?
No, I've went back and got my master's and stuff since then, so I've forgot a lot.
I understand. And tell us a little bit about, where did you go back and get your master's at?
Missouri State University.
Is that what used to be SMSU in Springfield?
Yeah, Springfield.
Okay. And did you indicate that you're also working towards a doctorate?
No, not at the moment. I'm not going to say it's completely out of the question because I may wake up tomorrow and be like, Darren said something about a doctorate, and I don't hate that idea. But as of right now, in this moment at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, no.
I understand. And then let's talk a little bit about Affinity Counseling again. How many locations does Affinity Counseling have?
So right now we have 3. I know they have sort of talked about looking at some alternative locations. I don't know exactly how far along they've kind of gotten with that. But right now, 3, Kennett, Corning, and Piggott.
And if I was wanting to know, and I'm just asking general information for Affinity Counseling, who has an office here at 103 South Main in Kennett, how many current counselors are working for Affinity Counseling?
Here in Kennett, let's see, there may be 5 or 6 of us. It's very, I guess, tight-knit group because there's not a whole lot of us. So we are able to have that closeness without having the extra problems that come along with having a whole slew.
But you have enough that, for instance, if I went and talked to you and I'm like, Kelsey McElwrath's just not my cup of tea, I would be able to find someone else who may be my cup of tea, correct?
Sure. We have enough to where we could do some switching around and get, you linked up with somebody that may be better suited. Some people do have a wait list, and I'm not sure what those look like right now, but some of them, we see people all the time. People get discharged all the time. So even if you are waitlisted, it's tentative.
And again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling on Welcome to the Booth with KDX AM 1590. Talked a little bit about our career at ARI, a little bit at the Division of Family Services, some of the things she's done. Now, is it my understanding that you also, do you play any softball?
I have played in 2 softball tournaments with the Kennett Co-ed Sports. Again, not a sports-minded person, but basically they needed one more female or they wouldn't be able to play, so I was volunteered to play.
And I'm assuming you gave it the same effort that you've given everything in your life, as good and as hard as you could go?
I did. I tried my very, very best.
And did you say that you did 2 tournaments, so it was not your favorite thing to do, correct?
It was not my favorite thing to do. For one, anytime I'm outside and it's hotter than 75 degrees, I'm ready to be done. But I did try, had fun. I prefer the powerlifting thing, if that's kind of what you're getting at. That's more my cup of tea.
I understand. And you indicated that at this time you receive a lot of referrals from the juvenile office and also the Division of Family Services. So is it my understanding that the majority of your clients are under the age of 18?
I would say a good portion of them, which is great now that a lot of schools are doing 4 days a week, because I'm able to schedule like all day long on Mondays for kids, so they're not having to miss school, that sort of thing. And I know some of the other therapists do that as well, so that, again, kids aren't having to miss school for appointments, that sort of thing. And then Tuesdays I usually reserve for any adult clients, and then Wednesday telehealth appointments I can pick up throughout the week.
And then obviously if somebody needed to make a special appointment on another day, you'd certainly work with their schedule, correct?
Sure. I it's not uncommon, especially like in summertime, people going on vacations, things like that. So I know myself, and I think a few of the others, were constantly kind of juggling, fitting in where we can, and filling cancellations, things like that. And
again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling on KDX AM 1590, talking a little bit about the counseling services available through Affinity Counseling. And we got a few more minutes left, about 3 or 4. And Kelsey, in the event that after listening to this or something of that nature, talking to you, if I wanted to schedule a counseling appointment with you, kind of explain to the listeners again how I do that.
So you'd fill out the referral form, and it has on there like questions you fill out, like what days you want to be seen, if you have a preferred therapist, things of that nature. You send the referral into our office staff, and they kind of match up with what therapist they think would work best for this client, depending on who has availability or whatnot. Or again, if the client specifies that they want so-and-so, or if they want me as a therapist, they can write that on there. And if I'm full, they would be put on my wait list, and I would try to work them in, when I could. But that's pretty much in a nutshell how our referral process works. Someone getting in.
And again, they can get on the Affinity Counseling Facebook page.
Yes, so our Facebook page is up. They post things all the time. All of our contact information is there. And
there's also a website.
There is, Counseling with Affinity.
So they can obviously do that. And obviously you're very much in the modern mode of things. I'm assuming there's not just a general phone number that you can call.
We do have a phone number. I think it's listed on the Facebook page as well. I believe that kind of goes to the Arkansas office, which they can connect to the Kennett or Corning or whatever.
And of course, there's always the ability to just walk in at 103 South Main Street in Kennett. Is that correct? And
sure. So someone is always there, I think, except on Fridays. I don't know what everyone else's work schedule is, but there's typically somebody always in the office.
And the last few questions for you. In regards to, and again, we're here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling on KDX AM 1590, talking a little bit about the counseling services available. Again, this is Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd. Kelsey, do you feel that your time at the Children's Division benefited you greatly in your career as a counselor?
I really do. Again, kind of like I said, I didn't know my head from a hole in the ground, basically. Like, I didn't know what the need was here in Dunklin County. I didn't know what child abuse and neglect looked like, or really the long-term effects of what that looks like trauma-wise when it happens to a child as they kind of grow up and start transitioning different phases of life. So I'm very grateful to Children's Division. That I've always told everyone, like, that was my favorite job ever, and that's kind of what I qualify as my home. So again, I'm very tight with everyone there. Still go eat lunch with them. So they as not only an office, but as like the division in general has been so helpful, and I'm super grateful for that opportunity to kind of start me on this path that I'm on now.
And when you're working for the Children's Division, did you notice a lot of the parents who were having issues, it was a result of their childhood was very similar to what they were putting their current child in? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So generational trauma is kind of what you see. I know that I've heard the phrase hurt people, right? So like people don't typically wake up one day and think, I'm going to abuse my children today. So that kind of mindset's sort of what we've seen passed down from generation to generation, and it's almost even fueled by drug abuse, which, as you know, this area, we've unfortunately kind of seen an influx of that over the last handful of years. So when you talk about trauma and drug abuse combined, you kind of set the stage for the perfect storm for continued abuse to happen.
Right. And it's kind of a inherent nature of, this was how I was raised, I don't know how to break the cycle. Is that correct?
Sure. So a lot of the parents too that come in and I see, it's sort of a relearning experience for them, because they don't know any different than what they've grown up with, so they don't really clock what's I guess quote unquote normal and not normal, or acceptable and not acceptable, because they again don't really know any different.
And it's been kind of your job as a counselor to kind of help these children break the cycle, so to speak. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we do a lot of cognitive reframing, and that's when we have bad thoughts, we can kind of take a little bit of closer look, identify where they're coming from, maybe try to reframe to put more of a positive spin, so that we're not falling into same cognitive or behavioral patterns that we've had passed down to us by parents, grandparents, that sort of thing. And
one thing that people need to realize is this is not a overnight fix. Is that correct?
Right. So a lot of times people will come to therapy and we'll learn all these coping skills and all this great stuff, and things will start looking up for the client and they'll stop coming to therapy. Right. And then like something big happens in their life and they've quit going to therapy and they've kind of quit using all these tools that they've learned. So then they kind of spiral into a crisis, right? So like mental health is an ongoing journey, I guess. And it's good for when things are bad, but it's also great when things are going great.
And it's kind of like and I've used this adage before, someone with high blood pressure, they take their blood pressure medicine, they check their blood pressure, hey, my blood pressure is perfect. Then they stop taking their blood pressure medicine and their blood pressure goes back through the roof. And they're like, I don't understand what's going on, why things have changed. It's a continuing process to always be coping and learning. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's definitely a lifelong journey for clients, and again, kind of as myself as a therapist, like it's a very eye-opening experience to see kind of clients and how they evolve and kind of what keeps them coming back and how they're able to manage things that maybe they couldn't have really dealt with appropriately 2 or 3 years ago.
And again, we've been here with Kelsey McElwrath from Affinity Counseling, talking a little about the services of Affinity Counseling, talking a little bit about Kelsey's past background, her reasons for counseling. And again, you can reach out to her on the Facebook page of Affinity Counseling. You can also look on their website. And also just stop in 103 South Main in Kennett and tell everybody, hey, I'd like to see what you got to offer, because as we indicated, mental health is a major need here in Southeast Missouri. And I'd like to thank her for being here in the booth today. And for my executive producer, Evan Todd, and my main man, Maureen Johnson, who's always here keeping me straight, I'd like to thank you for making us part of the day, and we'll see you next time on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590.